From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
4 bills up, 4 bills down. The immigration debate comes to a grinding halt at the nation's capital.
And will there be a Democratic switch in politics here in Arizona? If and when State 48 will turn blue.
How a House bill could protect LGBT communities across Arizona, but only if it's heard by the deadline.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Nicole Costantino.
And I'm Gabriel Camino. Thank you for joining us. Back to square one on immigration reform. The Senate rejected 4 separate bills, including the bipartisan bill that seemed ready to pass. The compromise would have provided a 10 to 12-year path to citizenship for recipients of deferred action for childhood arrivals, as well as support funding for President Trump's desired border wall.
This is the compromise, but I do think that it'll get support of almost everybody in there.
But a White House statement threatening veto may have helped sink the bill. On Twitter, President Trump called the Senate compromise, quote, a total catastrophe, saying it would create a giant amnesty. Attorney General Jeff Sessions also spoke out against the compromise.
I believe the American people are right, just, and decent. And what do they want? They've asked their government for a lawful system of immigration that serves the national interest.
The last plan rejected, the president's own bill, which leaves the immigration debate gridlocked and dreamers in limbo.
It's a day of mourning across the country as another school massacre left 17 dead and 14 wounded yesterday afternoon. New harrowing details have emerged about the mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. We're learning the names of several victims. The suspected shooter, Nicholas Cruz, is charged with 17 counts of premeditated murder and is being held without bond. It is reported Cruz was a member of a white supremacist group in the area. This is the 18th school shooting to happen so far in 2018. President Donald Trump spoke to school children, teachers, and families in the wake of the Florida school shooting.
No child, no teacher should ever be in danger in an American school. No parent should ever have to fear for their sons and daughters when they kiss them goodbye in the morning.
And here in Arizona, flags at state office buildings are being lowered to half staff. Governor Doug Ducey said in a statement that our hearts and prayers go out to the victims. The flags will remain lowered until Monday.
Arizona State Senator John Bowie gave us his thoughts on what lawmakers could do to try and prevent similar tragedies here in Arizona.
I don't think there's much appetite for addressing that given our current state legislature, but I think common sense gun safety reform is something that the vast majority of Arizonans support, and I think it's something we should take a look at as these shootings and these tragedies become more and more commonplace.
Also at the state capitol, House Bill 2586 remains in limbo as Arizona legislatures decide to bring it up to vote or not. Cronkite News reporter Alexis Burdine covered the bill and what it means for the LGBT community. Alexis?
If passed, the anti-discrimination bill would provide protections for the LGBT community in the entire state. I tried to speak with those on both sides of this issue.
With 1 day to go for a vote, the future of HB 2586 remains uncertain. Democratic State Representative Tony Navarrete is one of the legislators who introduced the bill.
This is a bill that many cities are asking for. We have cities already taking the lead on.
Those cities include Phoenix, Tempe, Flagstaff, Sedona, Chandler, and Tucson. But this would be the first time protections for LGBT members would be made a statewide law. When introduced, the bill seemed to have bipartisan support. However, it has one more chance to get a hearing in the House Judiciary Committee before the deadline to hear proposals. However, Chairman Representative Eddie Farnsworth from Gilbert said he would probably not grant it because he disagreed with the proposal. The Center for American Progress says that nationally, the cost of LGBT workplace discrimination is an estimated $64 billion. This number comes from the replacement costs associated with losing workers. And according to data from the Movement Advancement Project, 20 states and the District of Columbia have already passed similar laws prohibiting employment discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity.
When we look at states where we compete regularly for talent attraction and business expansion, the vast majority of those states have already updated their statewide policies.
We want to welcome all people to come and do business in Arizona, but when we do not want to even hear a bill that can really put Arizona in a much better light when we're talking about openness and diversity.
I tried to reach Representative Farnsworth numerous times and also talked to other legislators who may oppose the bill. But as of this broadcast, no one had responded. Friday is the deadline to vote on this bill. From the Broadcast Center, Alexis Burdine, Cronkite News.
Arizona, a state that is 1/3 Latino, hasn't had a statewide elected official with a Hispanic last name in 40 years. Democratic gubernatorial candidate David Garcia is looking to change that this fall. Garcia was in Washington this week, where Cronkite News reporter Shelby Lindsay caught up with him.
David Garcia is Hispanic and a Democrat, two things that would normally work against him in Arizona. But in 2018, he's using both to his advantage.
Latinos have had to play defense for a couple decades now. We've had to come out and vote against Joe Arpaio, vote against Senate Bill 1070. When was the last time Latinos had something to vote for?
Garcia believes he can bring voters to the polls by giving them something to vote for and not against.
You can't broadcast that energy. It's already harnessed out there in Arizona. It's happening, and it's going to be a huge part of, like I said, what gets us over the top.
Current Governor Doug Ducey has a commanding lead over Garcia in finances. But the Democrat says his message is resonating with individual donors.
We have a rigged economy and a rigged government in Arizona. It's working for a few people at the top. It's not working for most of Arizona, and so we're going to change that.
Political analyst Jeffrey Skelly agrees that there are things in Garcia's favor, but says he faces significant hurdles too, not the least of which is a high-profile Senate race that will draw attention from the governor's election.
So the governor's race, if you're a Democrat trying to fundraise, that's going to steal some of your thunder. In Arizona specifically, no incumbent governor has lost in Arizona since 1966.
Garcia hopes to increase voter turnout and hammer down on issues of health care, immigration, and redistricting.
There's thousands of teachers and bus drivers and sanitation workers who are ready to change Arizona. It is that grassroots energy that we're going to tap into.
In Washington, Shelby Lindsay, Cronkite News.
Garcia was in Washington this week along with Democratic gubernatorial candidates from Florida and Georgia to receive the endorsement of People for the American Way.
Chronic pain is what drives many narcotic users to opioids. Dr. Mel Pohl addressed the Arizona Opioid Summit today to share ways to ease pain without running to medicine. Kicking off the second day of the summit, Pohl discussed how people have turned to opioids to help ease pain that they're feeling. But he wants healthcare to explore other ways to treat pain, like yoga, massages, therapy, and most importantly, mindfulness. Mindfulness is meditating and breathing to help patients focus on the thoughts and feelings behind their pain. Pohl says it's free and it works.
My favorite part of treatment is watching the attitude shift, watching the light return to somebody's eyes who's been dulled for decades, to watch hope return, to see that they really feel like they can live a better life.
Pohl says he's optimistic the country is going to be out of the opioid epidemic in the next decade.
Overprescribing painkillers is one of the issues driving the opioid crisis, Attorney General Jeff Sessions said in a speech to the major county sheriffs of America today. Cronkite News reporter Austin Bunny spoke with an Arizona sheriff who attended the address.
Sessions encouraged the major county sheriffs of America to get tough on doctors who overprescribe painkillers, promising that the Justice Department will continue to aid communities combating the crisis.
But I've been stunned by the number of doctors that are criminally overprescribing and being indicted, and we're going to have a lot more indicted.
Pima County Sheriff Mark Napier welcomed the Attorney General's message today, but said the federal government isn't doing enough to financially support local law enforcement in fighting the battle.
the opioid crisis, we're simply not seeing that money trickle down to the local level where local sheriffs and local elected officials can say, this is the problem in our county, this is where we need to put those monies to use.
President Donald Trump declared the opioid crisis a national health emergency last year, and Arizona Governor Doug Ducey in January called for a special session of the legislature to address that emergency. But so far, no changes to policy or funding have occurred on the federal level. Sessions today called on sheriffs to continue enforcing laws and getting criminals off the streets in regards to opioids, but Napier thinks more good can be done through education instead of pure enforcement.
We don't want stability in this problem, and it's not going to be simply an enforcement approach. We cannot arrest our way through this problem.
In Washington, Austin Bundy, Cronkite News.
How to fund public education in Arizona has been debated for quite some time.
Coming up on Cronkite News, how a local organization is working to increase support for students and teachers.
And teachers across the U.S. are working together to create an adaptive PE program. Learn how they want to make gym class accessible to all students.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland, in Washington, in Louisville,
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
The Arizona public school system funding crisis is now more prominent than ever. Cronkite News reporter Madison Stark went to the Capitol yesterday as many gathered to lift their voices for education.
A rainy day at the Capitol didn't keep education advocates from voicing their support for Arizona public schools. Teachers, students, and other supporters rallied to express the need for more public school state funding, with the most prominent issue being supporting Arizona teachers.
We have a teacher crisis here. We have a teacher shortage. We're 50th in pay. We've got to do something now. We can't put Band-Aids on anything. We have to make a difference and to keep teachers in our classrooms and not leaving our state and not leaving our profession.
Andrew Simic is a junior at Shadow Ridge High School in Surprise and says he sees the effects of low teacher salaries every day.
Well, what I see at school is a lot of educators that really care about children and really care about the future of these kids, but they're having to suffer with very little budgets. They're having to suffer with buying most of their own supplies in class, and you can't do that on a teacher salary.
Without proper funding for public schools, education advocates are concerned for future students.
We have lots to offer to our students and to our families, but we feel like we're not given a chance sometimes.
Arizona kids deserve better than that. We've been below average for far too long, and it's time we step up to the plate and fix it.
From the Capitol, Madison Stark, Cronkite News.
Public school advocates are urging supporters to schedule meetings with legislators and join the funding fight by signing an online petition through AZ Schools Now.
Many physical education teachers from different states gathered to learn how to modify PE curriculum for special needs children today at Ability 360 Gym. Reporter Michaela Moorhead takes a look inside the conference.
A new use for the same racket, changing the game of tennis to make it more accessible for students with disabilities. Just one of the demonstrations at the Arizona Health and Physical Education Adapted Physical Education Conference. Adaptive PE is for students with a wide range of disabilities. Dr. Martin Block, keynote speaker, says why this conference is needed.
We're not doing a good job of training PE teachers to work with children. They only take one course on disabilities, and that's not enough to really help them be be a good PE teacher for kids with disabilities.
Teachers at the conference learned how to modify PE activities such as tennis and pickleball.
We did kind of very similar to what the elementaries do with the signs, so that way they learn how to transition from station to station, knowing how to play tennis, modifying certain things. Instead of, I can't do a forehand, maybe I can do the stop motion.
Although not all schools prioritize modifying physical education, Dr. Martin Block says this needs to change.
There are strategies we can do, and that we really need to do a better job than we are now and really think about the children with disabilities and their experiences.
In Phoenix, Michaela Moorhead, Cronkite News.
Arizona Health and Physical Education hosts their 17th annual conference and are already planning next year's. Solar power is an important energy resource here in Arizona.
How potential policy changes could affect your solar industry and what a local group is doing to prevent the change. Coming up.
And will those rain chances stick around for our weekend? I'll tell you coming up next.
Hello from the children of planet Earth.
Exploring, it's the lifeblood of the mission.
Human beings are a curious bunch.
What are we going to see when we get really close?
Wow.
Just because an idea is crazy, it's not necessarily wrong.
We were on our way.
You don't get anywhere until you've tested the limits.
That carries an intensity you can't imagine.
You could hear people just, whoa.
Oh my God, absolutely spectacular.
It's a rush.
We ask a lot of our heroes.
We are at a remarkable moment.
We're going farther than any exploration ever has.
By the year 2050, there will be more plastic in the ocean than fish. Before Professor Halden, I had an insane amount of passion, but I almost felt helpless because I didn't know how to use it. Professor Halden gave me a chance to make a difference. Being at a place like ASU allows you to take these big leaps. Ultimately, the biggest problems in the world cannot be solved alone.
Border wall backers say environmental regulations that get in the way of wall construction should be lifted. A proposal strongly opposed by environmentalists. Now lawmakers are asking if those regulations get in the way of border enforcement and should be lifted as well. Cronkite News reporter Ariana Bustos was at that hearing today in Washington.
Nogales rancher Dan Bell argues that the best way to help the environment may be by removing environmental protections to give Border Patrol agents more access.
A lot of the problems that we have associated with the environment is a lot of trash and trails that are on the landscape due to illegal immigration that's passing through the area.
Bell, the president of the ZZ Cattle Corporation, said illegal immigration makes his land a dumping ground. Brandon Judd, president of the National Border Patrol Council, testified alongside Bell and said agents can stop the cycle before it begins.
If you give agents the access that they need, we can stop that, which will actually protect these lands a great deal more than what we currently do.
But Scott Nichols said you have to weigh the effects. The co-chair of the Sierra Club Borderlands team said that permanent structures like roads and a wall would be much worse than trash.
It's a matter of degree. You know, the trash is a problem, but the infrastructure that's been built and that has been proposed has a far greater environmental impact.
Nicole also said he thinks that the degree of illegal immigration has been exaggerated.
Apprehensions have been declining steadily year upon year for a number of years now. We're at the lowest level since the 1970s. So the broader argument that we have to throw everything at the border, we have to inflict all these impacts upon the border, it doesn't have an empirical basis.
Bell disagrees.
It's not exaggerated. They're coming through, and they're coming through the remote areas where we have increased border security. They are using the areas that are more remote now, and so it is still a problem, and it'll continue to be a problem. So that's why we need to keep pushing forward.
In Washington, Ariana Bustos, Cronkite News.
The Valley of the Sun could be doing more to capitalize on that sunshine. An environmental advocacy group spoke at the state capitol this morning, to raise awareness for the importance of renewable energy in our state. Cronkite News reporter Nicole Hernandez takes us to the Capitol.
A cloudy day at the Capitol did not stop the Defend Our Future nonprofit from hosting a discussion about solar energy.
And Arizona is very uniquely positioned to be able to use solar energy.
The state's expansive desert and nearly year-round sunshine means high energy potential from the sun. In 2016, solar power made up 40% of Arizona's renewable energy, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration.
The EPA has played a great role in increasing availability and supporting the wider use of renewable energy and solar power, but our current policies are taking us backwards.
Defend Our Future opposes, among other things, the proposed EPA budget cuts and the 30% tariff on imported solar panels. The group wants students to voice their concerns to their state and federal officials.
Unfortunately, what's been going on in the past year on the federal level is keeping us stuck in the past.
Despite the recent tariff that the Trump administration put on solar panels and concerns from advocacy groups across the state, one local Arizona solar company is actually not that concerned.
In Arizona, with so much policy changes that have happened, that one change isn't going to be a drastic change to what we do in our business.
American Solar and Roofing has been in business for 17 years, but Sites has seen other companies struggle recently.
Over the last few years, we've seen, unfortunately, a downturn in the market just because of some policies. So there are a lot of solar integrators that are no longer here.
Renewable energy policy changes are nothing new for industry natives. However, experts agree that Arizona is not fully capitalizing on its solar potential. In Phoenix, Nicole Hernandez, Cronkite News.
There are an average of about 300 sunny days annually in the state of Arizona, making it one of the sunniest states in the nation. We've seen rain and chilly temperatures all week here in the valley. How much longer will our temperatures stay in the 60s? Nicole is in the weather tracking the latest for us. Nicole?
Yeah, Gabe, we've actually had some weather to be tracking recently with a lot of rainfall, and here are your rainfall totals. And with that rain has brought some cooler temperatures for your bus stop forecast tomorrow when you're dropping those kiddos off. Going to be about 48 degrees, but with a higher dew point at 42. So you're going to want to bring a jacket, and then it's going to be a little sticky throughout the day when you pick them up at about 3 p.m., 2 p.m., 4 p.m. Let's look at our valley highs for tomorrow. 70 degrees here in Phoenix, 69 in Scottsdale, 67 in Cave Creek, down in Queen Creek about 69, and in Surprise 68 degrees. So as this weather system that we've seen, it's going to be moving east. So as that's moving east, some drier temperatures and drier air is going to be moving west. So what that means is it's going to bring some clearer skies for the Valley of the Sun. Let's take a look at your 7-day forecast. Starting out your weekend, we're going to be rising back up into those mid 70s starting on Saturday at about 74. And as we break out into the start of your work week, we're going to be seeing a drop on Tuesday after President's Day into those 60s, but we're going to raise back up into those 70s at the beginning of next week.
Have you ever wanted to smash a TV with a hammer? Well, there's a place in the valley where you can do just that. We'll have an inside look at an unconventional way to relieve stress, one swing at a time.
Cronkite News, weeknights at 5 on Arizona PBS.
Fridays, it's at Cronkite News, your social sharing connection where you choose the news. Facebook likes and shares, tweets, retweets, and favorites. YouTube views and subscriptions. We're watching you watch us. From our digital home at cronkitenews.azpbs.org to your television, web browser, or mobile device. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Then join us for At Cronkite News, our weekly refresh, each Friday at 5 on Arizona PBS.
Stress is a part of everyday life at home and at work. Reporter Taylor Marie talks about a new kind of anger management business where people can break things to relieve the tension and let go of the rage.
A way to release stress, and you feel, if this makes sense, a little bit lighter. It's just it's instant gratification for what you've done.
Having a bad day at work? Smash all your troubles away. At Smashing Rage Room, located in Tempe, you can pick up a baseball bat, golf club, or hammer to break a variety of objects, such as TVs, keyboards, and vases. The owner started the business to help people safely express their emotions.
It allows someone to focus on it in the moment, being present with that anger, the resentment, the stress, and allows them to use this as an outlet to let some of it go.
David Abrams, a local psychotherapist, talked about how men and women process their emotions differently.
It's okay if you're a man, being angry is okay. For females are told through society, to smile and sort of repress their mood.
Wilkson says 2/3 of the customers who use the Rage Room are female. Taylor Boy says he comes to the Rage Room often.
I can explore a little bit and destroy it at the same time.
In Tempe, I'm Taylor Marie, Cronkite News.
Rage Room says, buy it, then you break it, opposed to break it, you buy it.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up next on Arizona Horizon and the PBS NewsHour.
On the next Arizona Horizon, a corporation commissioner talks about his plan to increase clean energy in Arizona. And a pediatrician talks about the link between childhood trauma and adult illness.
I'm Judy Woodruff on the next NewsHour, The Color of Money, how minorities in many parts of the nation are systematically denied home loans. That's Thursday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.